Hey everyone! I'm Albert Boris. So, I don't know if this is how everyone else feels too, or if it's just another one of my personal hyperfixations. There's way too many of them. But one of the most charming aspects for me in not just Mario Kart, but actually spin-off games as a whole are Unlockables. I still remember back when I got my first Mario Kart game, and I had a decently fun time with it. It was nothing extraordinary, but it was an addictive little game that brought me some joy. That was until I earned the gold trophies for the first time on the Mushroom and Flower Cups though, and I realized, wait, there are more tracks? And more characters? And so after many years of hard work, my roster went from this to this. Unlockables as a concept is something many of us take for granted, but at least to me, adds so much to the Mario Kart experience that I can't really imagine what it would be without them. At least I wish I couldn't. They're pretty much the closest thing the games have to an overarching journey, giving the player not just a reason to play through the game and beat everything, but they also make it so much more rewarding and satisfying when you do earn something. I mean, imagine if Rainbow Road was just available from the start. That wouldn't feel as spectacular now, would it? Unfortunately though, life isn't perfect, and as such, the way Unlockables have been handled throughout the series has ranged anywhere from amazing to non-existent. In fact, if I may say it, Mario Kart has forgotten about Unlockables! Or well, okay, that's what I would have called the video, except the Mario Kart World exists now. And it certainly did something with Unlockables too. More on that later. Which is why today though, I wanted to go through every single game in the series and discuss my thoughts on the Unlockables in each entry. It's not really something I see people talking about, so I wanted to shine some light on what I believe to be an incredibly underrated feature. Although before we get properly started, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new to this channel and enjoy my videos. It would really help me out and incentive me to make more videos more often. So with all of that being said, I say, let's get started. The first game in the series, Super Mario Kart, didn't really have too much in terms of unlockables. In fact, off the top of my head, the only things that you actually had to earn were the 150cc engine class as well as the Special Cup. And even then, that's only for 100cc and beyond. In 50cc, the Special Cup is just not a thing for some reason. But yeah, everything else was already available to you from the start. And if this was a newer game, I'd probably be more critical about it, but for being the first installment, I'd say this was pretty good. There's not much content to begin with, and since this was the first game in the series ever, Nintendo needed to include enough for casual gamers to get hooked up in this installment, and I think they did it pretty decently, by having most of the game accessible from the start, and then just giving you a few smaller surprises once you got better. And in this context, I think the Special Cup being exclusive to 100 and 150cc makes sense, because it's supposed to be a reward for beating everything else up until that point. And with 150cc acting as a secret hard mode, I'd say that Super Mario Kart overall handled Unlockables decently well, at least for the time being. Next up is Mario Kart 64, which sadly took a small step back. Once again, the 8 playable characters, although a bit different this time, are still available from the start, but that's expected. A bigger difference though is that not only is the 150cc class also unlocked already, but so is the Special Cup for some reason. In fact, this is the only game in the series besides Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to not make you earn it. Although then again, what is there to earn other than 6 minutes of your life wasted? If I had to guess why they made it like this, I'd say it boils down to multiplayer. Compared to its predecessor, Mario Kart 64 was much more geared towards multiplayer, since not only did it allow for up to 4 people to play together as opposed to just 2, but I suspect the game being in 3D, a newer medium, also attracted more casual gamers, who just wanted to have fun without jumping through the hoops to earn it. I mean hey, my first experience with this game was literally through the multiplayer Special Cup at a friend's house. Safe to say though, there's a reason Mario Kart 64 is my least played Mario Kart game of all time. There just isn't much of an incentive to journey through the cup, since you can already experience everything on the get-go. Of course, it's also because the controls are absolute garbage, but that's an entirely different story. However, there is actually one unlockable feature in the game though, after getting the gold trophy in all the previous classes, Mirror Mode. And the Mirror Mode is self-explanatory. It inverts all tracks left to right, and acts as a secret 4th engine class, except for in Toad's Turnpike, where the traffic is also oncoming now. And at the time, it was a neat surprise. Obviously, in this day and age, it's nothing special, and should just be replaced with reverse mode, but for the time being, it was a fun little reward that gave a new perspective to the tracks. Is there an incentive to unlock it though? Well, not really. Unless you're that desperate to 100% it, and there's not even any reason to think it exists. Like if I was an N64 kid, I'd probably just boot up and play F-Zero X instead. That game actually had a lot of substance. So yeah, on the whole, Mario Kart 64 took a small step back, and I guess maybe a tiny leap forward with Mirror Mode. But unlike with Super Mario Kart, there was much less reason for this game to be so light on unlockables. The third game in the series, Mario Kart Super Circuit, was the first handheld entry in the series, and it changed up the series in a lot of ways, with Unlockables being one of them. Obviously, since this was on a weaker hardware and all, it didn't really attract casual gamers as much as 64 did, especially because this thing isn't as suited for multiplayer experiences, like at all. Every player would require their own system, a cable, and preferably their own cartridge as well, and at that point, why even bother? Luckily though, the single player campaign was massive to compensate. Or well, besides the loss of mirror mode. That's actually sad. Imagine how difficult mirror mode would be in a game where all tracks were flat pancakes. But anyways, the Special Cup is once again locked, and good thing that, because we already have 16 tracks available from the start anyways, with the new added Lightning Cup. And unlike in Super Mario Kart, this Special Cup can actually be played in 50cc. Finally! However, the main unlockables of the game would be the extra cups. After beating the whole game once, and the title screen changes from day to sunset, you can play the game again, but this time if you get more than 100 coins in each cup, you also unlock the extra version of that cup. Unlocking them all, you realize it's all of the 20 Super Mario Kart tracks ported over, although this was not handled too well. For starters, there is absolutely no indication that you need to do this to unlock them, or the fact that these cups exist at all. And even if you're like me and searched up how to do it beforehand, the fact that you first have to get through the whole game just to unlock the ability to unlock these cups, that is way too much. And this is from someone who loves this game to death. Now imagine if you don't like this game. And speaking of Super Circuit's barbarism, this is also the first game in the series to introduce the star ranking system. Wow, this game is revolutionary. However, as expected, it was pretty unpolished. Unlike in newer games, star ranks aren't based on what position you end up in during a Grand Prix, but rather by how well you play. Basically, don't collide into corners or drive into off-road, and all of this is a lot easier said than done, because not only are the controls in this game pretty hard to master, but you can actually lose a star if you also use certain items like red shells, because I guess they make it easier for you, even though it's completely luck-based which items you get. And the only reward for getting all 3 star ranks on all cups is the title screen changing tonight anyway, so who gives a f***? That said, I still prefer this game as a whole over the previous two though, when it comes to unlockables, because as sadistic as they may be here, at least it's something, and you can still play most of this game without ripping your hairs out, even if it does take a while. And for what it's worth, I appreciate this game for giving us the staples that allowed future installments to improve on this feature. Now, Mario Kart Double Dash was when unlockables started to get kind of good. Actually, scratch that. The unlockables in this game are great! It pretty much revolutionized them as we know them. Because for the first time, we now also have unlockable characters, karts, and even battle stages. Karts were especially a big deal, because prior to this game, there was only one standard kart used by everyone. The thing that was so fun in this game was that every time you beat the cup, you'd always earn something. And even though most of the time it was just karts, due to how many of them there are, even they had a lot of charm to them, since they were each designed to one of the 20 playable characters. Oh yeah, and 20 playable characters, that's a big step up from the usual 8. Sure, only 4 characters are unlockable in this game, which is a bit sad, but considering how many other rewards there are, it's a pretty minor complaint. Battle stages were especially rewarding to unlock, and the fact that you never had to do this in future titles always made it be kinda sad. The Special Cup is also unlockable in this game, as it should be, but for some reason, the way you earn it is that you just beat the 100cc Star Cup, and then it suddenly becomes available across all engine classes. Sure, a bit weird, but I'll take it. But also new to this game is the All Cup Tour, which you unlock after beating the 150cc Special Cup. And it was another really rewarding thing to get, even if it sadly never returned. But yeah, on the whole, Mario Kart Double Dash got pretty close to perfection when it came to unlockables. Not as amazing as another game we'll soon talk about, but yeah, even while being a more multiplayer focused experience like 64, they still knocked it out of the park for single player. Mario Kart DS, coming up next, largely followed in Mario Kart Double Dash's footsteps when it came to unlockables, although it wasn't quite as exciting. Instead of every cup offering a reward, this time it was only a few of them. The biggest change, no doubt, was the introduction of retro tracks, because starting from this game, there were an additional 4 cups, composed of old tracks. In all the previous games, there were always at least 3 cups available at the start, which was balanced for the time, but if the same was going to be done for the retro cups too, that would be a little too many courses all available at once, with way too few to be earned. So from this point on, the Star Cup also became an unlockable one, alongside a Special Cup, to make for a 50-50 split between available and locked tracks, which I think was a great idea for balancing. Unfortunately though, the other unlockables in this game were a bit more underwhelming. Once again, there are also 4 characters to be unlocked, but instead of just beating a cup, this time you have to win the trophy for all cups in a specific class. For Drybones it's all 50cc Nitro cups, for Daisy it's all 50cc Retro cups, for Waluigi it's all 100cc Retros, and lastly for Rob it's all Mirror Nitro or Retro cups. And I guess the reason it's like this is to make up for the fact that there simply aren't as many things to unlock as in Double Dash, and this way things are still spread out. You'd think they wouldn't have to do this though, because like with Double Dash, this one also has a lot of cards. In fact, this time each character actually gets 3 designated cards. Of course there's the basic standard one, but then each player also gets 2 signature cards, and one of them is available at the start, while the other is unlocked. So how did he go about that journey? Oh yeah, that's right, you just get them all at once by winning all 100cc Nitro cups. Could you make it any less underwhelming? It's bad enough that it's one of the easier requirements, making the reward feel less fulfilling, but the game just handles it so nonchalantly as well. In Double Dash there was really a sense of triumph whenever you got a new vehicle, but in Kart DS it's just, oh yeah, here's some more random cards. Why should I even care then? Oh yeah, and then for beating all Mirror Mode cups, any character can use any signature card, which feels just as mundane. For being a handheld entry, you'd think they make the single player journey more fulfilling, but sadly that wasn't the case. But hey, Kart DS also has a mission mode, so how did it go for unlockables there? Well, it's a bit more natural, as you progress from World 1 to World 2 to World 3, etc. Within the worlds themselves, you can pursue the levels in any order you like except for the boss, and there's also a secret 7th world you get by earning a star rank on the previous ones, which is really nice. For me, I'm not much of a mission mode Andy, it's one of those you play once and then never again things, but at least it's something. So yeah, on the whole, Kart DS doesn't have bad unlockables per se, some of them feel fairly rewarding. After Double Dash put so much on the table, this game feels very underwhelming in comparison. Luckily, however, Kart Wii comes to save the day. Now obviously, as a game, Kart Wii does have its fair share of problems, but my goodness is this the magnum opus of Mario Kart unlockables. It has 14 unlockable characters and 18 unlockable vehicles, and you'd think this would feel a bit overbloated. After all, there's only so many available cups to play, but the best part is just how many different ways there are to unlock these things. Some of them, you just have to win a cup, no biggie. Other times, you have to get at least a 1-star rank in all cups of a certain class. And sometimes, you have to play time trials and even beat staff ghost data. Just wow, there's so much variety. Normally, unlockables incentive me to play Grand Prix, but this is the only one where I'm even incentive to race in time trials, and that is something I cannot respect Mario Kart Wii enough for. And the even better part is that there's more than one way to unlock somebody, even if the default way is usually more viable. Rosalina, for example, is earned by getting a star rank in all of the Mirror Cups, but to this day, I've never actually done that. In fact, I don't think most people have. And yet we still obtained her through legal means, by having purchased Super Mario Galaxy. I still remember how shocked I was to find out that was the reason I got her, and I loved it. And yeah, technically it's pay to win, but I'm okay with it because not only is it just an alternate way, but why wouldn't you get Mario Galaxy anyways? Unless you bought it on 3D All-Stars. To be honest, the only thing I'd really complain about in this game is the fact that none of the battle stages are unlockable, which definitely feels like it should have been the case when it has 10 of them, the most out of any entry. And on the other hand, the Ghost Data missions can be a bit brutally unforgiving at times, because you're not just racing to be faster than the staff ghost, you actually have to meet an additional timer threshold, which can feel a bit frustrating at times. And considering the final unlockable is just a Mii costume, it does feel a bit like a slap on the face. But regardless, the feeling of finally having filled out your entire roster is one of the greatest feelings ever in Mario Kart. So much blood, sweat and tears, and you've finally earned yourself one of the best rosters in the series. And the best part is that Mario Kart Wii had multiple save files, so if you wanted to, you could do the whole journey all over again, without having to delete your achievements. But then Mario Kart 7 slowly began the downward spiral that we'd never recover from. Now, I do have a soft spot for Mario Kart 7, but that's in spite of the unlockable system, not because. Every step that this installment took for this was just weird. For starters, the flower and banana cups have also been made unlockable now. Why? I mean, even as someone who's always been in favor of unlockables, this is just way too restrictive considering these 8 are the most simplistic and generic tracks of the bunch. The Star Cup being unlockable was acceptable since it's a pretty big step up in difficulty from the previous tracks, but the Flower Cup is still a beginner track like the Mushroom Cup, just with more interesting tracks. It's supposed to be an alternative if you're new to the game and just want to play around. Why deprive us of that? Now, in Mario Kart 7's defense, it's also the easiest game in the series, so it's not really a challenge to unlock more cups, but still, why? And vehicles have completely changed in how you earn them, because for starters, it's actually vehicle parts you unlock now. Kart bodies, tires, and gliders. More importantly though, you don't get them as rewards for beating challenges anymore. Instead, every time you get 50 coins, you just randomly unlock one of these parts. That is so underwhelming. Not enough that it's piss easy to earn coins, even with there being a limit on 10 per race. But when it's a completely random surprise every time, nothing really feels earned. You just get something, and now it exists. So what about the characters? Well, luckily they're probably the best unlockables in this game, but that's not really a compliment. Gone are the time trial and star rank challenges. You do, however, earn each of the 8 characters by beating one of the cups in 150cc. So in other words, there is no reward for playing through 50 or 100cc. Or well, technically the me can be earned by winning all cups in any class, so at least that's something. In fact, that's how it became the first character unlocked in this game, but unless you're aiming for different title screens and those free stars online, which by the way doesn't exist anymore, why would you do it? Now, on the positive side, this is not awful. At least it does feel rewarding to get these characters, even if the roster is also kind of missing some integral main characters, like a certain being in purple. Of course, I'm talking about Vivian. But on the whole, it does have a few unlockables, even if the journey is wildly inconsistent. Now we get to Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, however, where it gets even worse. The flower and banana cups are still locked, but that's the least of the issues. Remember when there was no method to unlocking specific kart parts? Well, let's do that again, but with characters! Not enough that everything about unlocking vehicles returns in this game, but this time I can't even feel rewarded about characters, and this time it's not even determined by how many coins you get. You just beat any random cup and you'll be given a random character. That's it, there's no build up, you'll just have the entire roster before you're even halfway done with this game. Maybe it's just me who's so needlessly dramatic about this, but where's the excitement in this? Isn't it more fun to slowly build up the roster through specific challenges? At this point, I fail to even be mad as much as I'm just sad. Another thing Mario Kart 8 introduced was also DLC, which was a brand new concept for the series at this point. And well, for this game, I'm not gonna complain too much. Obviously, since this is additional content you have to pay extra for, it makes sense to be available from the start. And since it is only a few more extra tracks and characters, it's just a fun little bonus. And then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe ruins everything. As petty as this sounds, but this is one of the reasons I can't call this one of the best Mario Kart games. The other reason being the shallow gameplay. I mean, sure, it has the most courses, best characters, lots of items, and debatably the most gorgeous art style in the series. Pretty much most of the things that it does have been perfected. The only issue is, there's no journey to accommodate that. Instead of having an admittedly poor unlockable system, how about having no unlockables at all? Everything is available from the start now. Okay, not everything, the vehicle parts still need to be earned by collecting coins, and Gold Mario is your reward for getting 3 stars in all cups, but everything else, it's already there. And the main argument I see for why this is the case is that it would be so unfair for the people who already played the Wii U version to have to go through everything again. But well, guess what? I already have to get back all the coins in VR that didn't transfer, and that seems like a bigger gut punch. Never mind that this game sold more copies than the Wii U consoles ever did, so like how many people were benefited anyways? And then there's the Booster Course Pass DLC. 48 new tracks and 8 new characters, also available from the start. You can literally play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the first time and immediately go to Wii Rainbow Road. That's not right! Where's the reward in that? Now, in the Booster Course Pass's defense, it was still a journey in its own right. Seeing the track selection slowly unfold over the period of 2 years was an unforgettable experience. But it's never gonna be experienced like that again. Someone who purchases this DLC in 10 years is just gonna get it all at once without any of the build-up, and I feel kinda bad for them. So overall, for as much content as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has, without unlockables, it feels more like an over-bloated shell that, while is fun with friends, has very little to bring me back on my own. And that, my friends, is the story of how unlockables died in Mario Kart. Or so we thought. Because lo and behold, as it would turn out, 8 years later, we would finally get a new installment in the form of Mario Kart World. Surely, since this was the first new game in over a decade, that meant we'd finally get the grand return of good unlockables, right? No. Why do I keep hoping for things? Nintendo, you've done so much right with this game, and yet out of all things, the unlockables are probably the worst they've ever been in the series. Except for the games where they're non-existent. The only good things I can say is that for one, at least the special cup is unlockable, and even then that's the bare minimum. The fact that the other 7 cups are all readily available at the start feels a little generous. But you know what's fair, it's an open world and I can already visit them in free roam anyway, so why not? And I guess mirror mode is a bit satisfying to unlock as well, because you not only have to get a gold trophy in all the cups and rallies, but you also need to do a set amount of missions in free roam, making you really work for it. Even if we should have had reverse mode instead, but whatever. Oh yeah, and the vehicles are still unlocked by collecting a set amount of coins, which I've already stated I don't like, but you know what, I don't even care. It's the least of my concerns here. What really makes me baffled are how characters are unlocked. What the f were they thinking? So to start off, 7 of the characters are earned by beating the first 7 Grand Prix Cups ones. Which ones though? Well, surely it's the wacky ones such as Wiggler, Pauline, or Cow, right? No, it's f***ing Donkey Kong, Daisy, and Rosalina to name a few. Some of the most basic characters in the game. And on the one hand, I kinda get what they were going for, since each character is tied to a specific track in that cup. But in practice, it just feels weird that they have to work for characters that should already be there from the get-go, instead of the ones that are actually really weird. And you don't even need to get first place in the cups. I was able to unlock my goat Birdo while only landing in bronze on a banana cup. So yeah, that's kind of underwhelming. But these aren't even the worst unlockables here. See, the characters in Mario Kart World are kind of divided into 2 separate classes. There's the regular characters such as Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Daisy, but then there's also the NPC drivers, which are random enemies. And well, some of them are also unlockable. How do you get those? By sheer dumb luck. Basically, if someone behind you gets the Kamek Orb item, he'll transform you into one of the 26 NPC drivers, and if you're lucky and become one you don't have, then you unlock them. That is so stupid, it actually hurts my head. You mean to tell me there's the slim chance that I might never get every character? Were they right in the head when deciding this? There's no skill or sense of reward at all anymore. You just hope for the best that the luck gods are on your side. And sure, apparently some tracks have higher chances of yielding you a specific character due to them being tied to them, but again, it's complete luck, and for that matter, I got Coin Coffer on Boo Cinema anyways. A character I'm sure has no connection at all to it. Oh yeah, and also Pianta for Choco Mountain, don't forget that. Couldn't we have gotten these characters by like, oh I don't know, doing missions in free roam? That would have actually been genuinely rewarding, especially if the missions were perhaps tied to the courses that said NPC drivers show up on. But no, for that we just get stickers that we can barely even see on our cards. It should also be mentioned that the regular characters have costumes that are also unlocked for the same luck-based way, although instead of getting the Kamek Orb, these are just earned by snagging a food bag item on the road, which while it's still a bit unfair, it's not as brain dead of a decision, since they're way more common to find than it is to get a specific item. And I mean, they show up in free roam too, so even though some costumes are tied to specific regions of the map, it's a much easier thing to farm for, even if, yet again, there's pretty much no skill to this at all. In either case, costumes aren't really as major of a deal as entire characters, so I don't really have any too strong feelings for this. But yeah, that's how unlockables are in Mario Kart World. The fact that the game is as much of a masterpiece as it is in spite of all of this is truly a testament to how wonderful everything else they cooked was. For the first time in probably ever, the game actually has enough to keep me going despite the poor unlockables. Thanks to how addictive the technical gameplay is to master, how much there is to see and explore in free roam, as well as how intense knockout tour is with people. And while that makes me happy to a lesser extent, it's still disappointing how undercooked this one area was. Although hey, even there at the very least, it's better than how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart 64 handle unlockables, although let's not act like that's an achievement. So yeah, in conclusion, it seems Nintendo doesn't give a shit at all about unlockables anymore. I mean heck, there's just freaking one locked 8 Deluxe character, and it's really sad to see. From initially being the milestones that pushed you through each game, nowadays they're just an afterthought, and not even just in Mario Kart. It's been a growing trend in other Mario spin-off games too, like Mario Party, where Superstars kept everything available from the start, and Jamboree's unlockable characters boiled down to just looking for them on the world map. And I wish I was joking. Is there a deep-seated reason for why it's like this now? Do people just not have as much patience for tough unlockables anymore, and are games just reflecting that? Well, maybe? I'm not gonna say that anyone is wrong for not liking unlockables. All of this is obviously just for preference, the same way it's a preference that I like unlockables. Some people may not care at all about unlockables in Mario Kart, and that's absolutely fine. It's a multiplayer game after all. Not everyone does have the time or patience because they have other stuff going on in life. I'm just saying, I'm sad it turned out this way personally to me. And that's just how I feel. If you'd like to know what my ranking is for how each game handles unlockables, this would be it. Hopefully, you all enjoyed this longer discussion video though, on a topic I may have gotten a little too passionate on. Do you agree with me or do you not? Let me know in the comment section down below what do you think about the downfall of unlockables. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for even more Mario videos in the future. And with all of that being said, I'm signing off now, until next time.